All right, I'm going to try this again. I was trying to do a live stream a minute ago and then something wasn't working out right. So what I wanted to show you was I have this box. Um, I had gotten some coffee from Storyville Coffee. And so Storyville always sends me this really nice box, and after a while I begin to suspect that I'm spending more on the box than I am on the coffee that's inside. But I wanted to, and a while ago I told you, so it's like 4:30, almost 5 o'clock here, and that's pretty late for me to have coffee, but I decided I hadn't had a cup all day. I'm going to have 1 cup of coffee today, so I'm going to make it a Storyville cup. But their marketing continues to just completely surprise me, or I don't know, not surprise is not the right word, just I guess I chuckle at them. In their letter this time, they're talking about the city of Seattle, and then they say, well, the next time you come visit Storyville, you should come, and then if you have some time, go also and visit Seattle. Usually you would switch that around. You'd be like, if you come, you're going to come see Seattle, then come see Storyville as well. But I'm wanting to make a cup of coffee, and Stacy and the boys were out with their rabbits. Peter has been getting rabbits, and so today he was getting his buck. So they went to pick up the rabbit, and I have a little bit of quiet in the house, so I wanted to use this moment to make a bit of coffee for me. And so I was going to make a cup, and I thought, it'll be faster if I just go ahead and make it while you're watching. So here's my cup of coffee being made, and then I'm going to sip a few sips of it while I share with you a few thoughts that I have for this time. And by this time, I mean the fact that we're right here coming up on Easter. And so today is the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. I don't know how loud that is for you. May not be a problem. But today is the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, and this is the day where Stacy and I got married on the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. And so we have both April the 23rd, 2011, that is our anniversary, but we also always have this day, the day between Easter and Good Friday, that is also our anniversary. So in some ways we have 2 anniversaries each week. And so in this instance, our anniversary, I'm not sure what to call this one. Sometimes we call it our spiritual anniversary. It's not really. It's our, and one of the reasons why we chose this day as our anniversary to get married on. Well, at the time it was a Saturday. It was open. We were having trouble finding. It's the 23rd is my sister Dorcas's birthday, and so we actually borrowed her birthday for our wedding. She was very gracious about that. But we're in meeting each other. One of the things that Stacy and I discovered was that her name means resurrection, and the calling that God had put in my life, the ministry name, the film company name, everything is Thorn Crown Films, and it had to do with the fact that when Jesus came and he wore the crown of thorns. So in the Holy Week, he wore the crown of thorns as part of the humbling himself as a servant. And what the work that God had been doing into my life was telling me that every young man, and this is not just men, this is every person, we have to come to a point where we are willing to humble ourselves, take on the form of the servant, like Jesus did. But then after the humbling of ourselves, as it says in Peter, when Peter was writing, he says, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that in due time, that in due season, he will exalt you. And so it's not a formula where you humble yourself now so that you can be exalted tomorrow, but it's a reality of the Christian faith, is that here we humble ourselves knowing that there's coming a resurrection. And so the resurrection time that's coming is not a secret to us. It's, we've been, for Peter and John and Mary and Mary Magdalene and all of those who were on waiting for the first day of the week, not knowing what they were waiting for them it was something unknown, something they didn't understand or know that was coming up. And so as a result, when Jesus rose again on the first day of the week, it was a shock and a surprise for them. But for us, as believers, we now come to expect it. We know that there will be a resurrection. And so agreeing with Mary as they were going out to Lazarus' tomb, where he'd been dead, and Jesus comes and says, he's going to rise again. And Mary says, I know, or Martha, I forget which one I'm talking about right now. But anyway, she said, I know that he will rise again on that day. And on that day, we will rise when we put our faith in Jesus Christ. And that's a huge blessing. And I'm glad for that. But we have one other promise, and that is that he is with us here. We're not just waiting. Because Jesus is alive, he is with us here. We're not having to wait until that day to see him, well, we will see him on that day, but we don't have to wait until that day to experience him, to know him. We can know him now. And so today, being not April 23rd, but being the day between Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday, is a celebration for Stacy and I of our wedding anniversary. And if you get to know us for any length of time, you will know that we really don't celebrate a lot of dates right on the day, but we do celebrate things around the time of. And so there's usually some kind of celebration that happens around these times. 2 years ago, we were in Peru actually for this time, and so that was a pretty good celebration, and we had a good time with that. But sometimes we have an actual celebration, other times we just celebrate each other and are just glad for the opportunity. So today, we're not really doing anything as a celebration. We're just more, we're carrying on with life, and I'm taking this moment to have coffee with you. And earlier today, Stacy and I took some time to sit out in the sun for a minute and to spend some time together out there. But let's see if I can do this correctly for what I'm trying to accomplish. Right there. There we go. There. This is where I was trying to sit to have my bit of coffee. So let's see. There we go. So now that I actually made it, I need to taste it and see if it's any good. It's good coffee. My brother-in-law, he orders his coffee in from the East Coast. He got his order the same day I got mine from the West Coast. And I started thinking about it as we have really good coffee right here made in the Denver, Colorado area, where people are importing green beans from all over the world, bringing them here, roasting them, doing a really good job, and yet here I am importing roasted coffee beans from other places. So I think it's interesting how we do that. But what I wanted to share about today is on the day, tomorrow morning, being the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and in reality, that moment is for Christians the defining moment of our faith. The fact that Jesus rose again of his own volition, and that when Martha and Mary and Martha came, not Mary and Martha, when Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to the tomb and they came inside, and when the angel that's there says, "Who are you looking for? Why do you seek for the living among the dead?" That moment, why do we look for the living among the dead? And Jesus is not among the dead. He is not a founder of a religion that is among the dead. He is alive. And so we have that confirmation for us in our faith, is that Jesus is alive. We serve a risen Savior. And so for us, that truth can become so, well, first of all, it's a life-changing truth, but it can also become such a, it sometimes happens to where we know a truth so well, and we know it so much, and we've heard it so much that it becomes common. And so I was thinking about that today. Last year, we attended another community church here for a Good Friday service, and the service for Easter, preparing for resurrection on the first day of the week, the service was designed to make you, to help you think and meditate on the absolute hopelessness that the apostles were going through when Jesus was being crucified and when Jesus was being put in the tomb. And so that particular hopelessness, that emptiness, the fact that here Jesus came and he spoke and then he died, that hopelessness is very difficult for us to fully grasp. Now, and so in the service that we were in that year, last year, they ended the service where everyone just quietly left and went out and went back to their house. And with the song, the lament of the apostles and of the women, that Jesus was in the tomb, that he was buried, that the cross had done its work, and Jesus was buried. And then the idea was there was complete silence, and there was complete just waiting until the first day of the week when Jesus rises again. And so it was nice and helpful for my faith to think about that. But today, as I was thinking on this in-between time, between the time of the crown of thorns and between the time of the resurrection, there is a time that happens over and over again for each of us in our life in different ways. There's times when we suspect bad news, or when we are in the middle of suffering, or we're in the middle of pain or sickness. And then there's a time on the other side of that where there is either healing, there's hope, there's something that changes, but there's a period in the middle where we're just set with waiting. You know, in Ecclesiastes, when it talks about that there's a time for everything, there's a time and a purpose for every season. He doesn't actually mention waiting, but it is, I think, part of the Christian life that there is a time for waiting. And what we're supposed to do with the waiting has a purpose. We're supposed to be waiting and have a purpose. And so one of the things that I want to do with my waiting time and my on purpose, when I'm in, and for me, you know, this past week has not been a quiet week. It has not been yes, the stay-at-home order is still out here in Colorado, but my work is from home, and I spent several days and nights just working, trying to finish something in time for a deadline. And so I was working what felt like night and day, and I just didn't have the time to sit and look into my wife's eyes or to play with my boys. I took some time to go out and bounce on the trampoline with the boys and did some of that, but it just felt so much that I was being rushed and rushed and rushed. I had so much. And life is like that. We have so many things just coming at us where we have to keep doing them, and it's very difficult to take a moment to have some quiet time. But I think it's important for us to take a moment to have a bit of quiet time. And so for right now, tomorrow morning, when the team and I go up to the church, and I'm going to be preaching and we'll be live streaming our service from the church, at that point, I will be talking about the fact that he is not here, he is risen, as he said, and just the beauty of what that means for us as believers. But I wanted to take a moment right now to think about what it means that the Lord of the universe was willing to come and to die and to be silent. Like, Jesus didn't just come and speak one word and boom, it was all done. He went through a process of living with people, of getting to know people, of walking with people, of doing miracles. And then he comes to the place where he can't just immediately go and die on the cross. He goes through this process of being betrayed. He goes through the process of a sham trial. He goes through the process of being beaten. He goes through the humility of the crown of thorns and the purple garb they put on him. He goes through this whole process. And none of it's just fast. It's all slowly dragging its way through the day and the night over there. And as he's going through all of that, and then he goes to he dies, and he doesn't just go in the grave and then pop right up again. It's 3 days and 3 nights. And so here he comes, and there's this quiet time. And there's a quiet moment. And I think for our faith, it's important for us to realize that there are times in our faith where there will be quiet moments where the things that we're trying to accomplish, the noise that's coming at us, is going to have to stop. And there's sometimes when God stops it for you. There's times when a loved one dies, or when a sickness comes to yourself. There will be moments in there where everything else that you were doing is stopped, and you're having to think about things that you weren't thinking about the day before or the week before. And so there's times that it's forced upon you. But there's other times when we can choose to just stop everything and to think about things that we weren't going to think about otherwise. And these are necessary things. For instance, for myself, I think it's very important to think about our own mortality, the fact that we are not invincible. I think that's important for us to think about that. I think it's important for us to consider what Christ has done for us and what it really means that one day we will have new life with him. I think it's important for us to stop and look around at the seasons. Looks like the boys just came home with the new bunny. So there's my boys out there, and they have a new bunny, and they're excited, and Peter wants to raise bunnies. Well, how many times in my life am I going to be right here, right now, where my son, my firstborn son, will have his first bunny or something? It's important for me to take moments, not all day, but take many moments where I choose to stop and wait. And when I say wait, I don't mean not do anything. I mean wait on the Lord, and to listen to the still small voice inside and say, Lord, what is happening right now? What are you doing right now? And can I be part of that? And can you show me what you're doing? And so that's what I want this to be, is God took the time to walk through the process, and I want to take the time to walk through the process, so that when the good news, when someone says, Jesus is risen, he is risen indeed, that I can truly rejoice, because my soul has waited in the dark places, and I have fully considered both the ramifications of what it means that I'm mortal, that one day I'll die one day, what it means that the people, my friends and family around me, they are mortal, and one day they will die and they will pass away. I want to have considered this, not because it's morbid, but because when I consider it and I see the fact that we will all die, and then I see the fact that if our faith is put in Jesus Christ, and I see this truth, we will rise again. We will live again. We will be with him in glory. And so I'm looking forward to that day, and I'm grateful for this moment of waiting today, while we're waiting for tomorrow morning, when we get to celebrate one of the most beautiful moments in all of history, the moment when the grave was empty. And why are you seeking for the living among the dead? He's not here. He is risen, as he said. So I'm looking forward to that, but I don't want to waste the moments, the times of waiting. So I'm not sure what you're dealing with right now, but go ahead and take some time to think about your waiting, to think about some of the deeper, darkest things that you're usually trying to avoid not thinking about. Go ahead and think about them. Pull them out, write it, process it. Think about the deep darkness, because really what we do today as we're waiting for tomorrow is we think about the worst darkness that could come upon the earth, and there it was, the creator of the universe killed by his own creation. And in that darkness, he waited, and he waited until the appropriate time, and then he rose again. So take some time to think through some of the darknesses in your life, but don't just stop by looking at the darkness. Look into the darkness and then look through it and say, where are we going with this, Lord? Where are we going? And look all the way through, and maybe you have to look through into the next life when we're with Jesus in glory before you find any hope. But go ahead and do it. Look through the darkness and see, where is the hope that is promised to us? And don't waste the season of waiting that God gives us. And sometimes, and if you're really feeling super busy like I was this week, I would say, don't wait for the time of waiting. Choose to wait now. Choose to take that time to wait a little bit. Those are some of my thoughts. I'll be sharing some more of my resurrection thoughts tomorrow for our church's live stream and our service. Thanks for joining me today, and may you fully experience not only the depth of what it means to live in a broken world, but may you fully experience what it means to serve a risen Lord, and that the resurrection is true. So those are my thoughts, blessings. I hope to see you guys again next week. And until then, may the Lord bless you, encourage your hearts, and may you serve the risen Savior with joy and with peace.